Buongiorno, benvenuti. Good morning, welcome to the Chimek Campus Open Day. I'm Carlo Minucci, I'm the director of the, I'm Carlo Minucci, I'm the director of the Center for Mind-Brain Sciences, and today I will give you a brief introduction of the center. Then later my colleagues will present to you the master, PhD, the Harvard Summer School, all the facilities, and some students will give you an idea of what it means being part of CIMeC. The center was opened 10 years ago, so it has 10 years, in 2007, and the members of the center have two main aims. One aim is related to the research, the other one is related to the educational part. So the research aim is to study the functioning of the brain through the evaluation of its functional structural characteristic, and that is done in both normal and pathological conditions. And then the other part is to educate the next generation of interdisciplinary researcher in the mind and brain sciences. The center, as I said, is an interdisciplinary research center, and it includes different members coming from other departments of University of Trento, and more specifically, it incorporates people from psychology and cognitive sciences, from physics, mathematics, information engineering, and computer sciences, but also people from other centers here in Rovereto in Trento. Later on, you will also listen to a presentation by Stefano Panzeri, that is a colleague from the Italian Institute of Technology. It's an international center, so the members of this center are from different countries around the world. As you can see, many of the postdoc fellows are from abroad, but that is also the same. About 1/3 of the principal investigators working here at the center are from other countries. And it's a melting pot of different cultures and different knowledge, as I told you, from different fields of research. And here is just to give you a flavor of several nationalities of those members. As you can see, so there are people from different countries, from Europe, America, and Asia, and so on. And here you can see how those different figures, principal investigator, postdoc, staff, and PhD students are composed and are grown over different years. Sorry, I'm old, and this new pointer is a little bit difficult to use for me. And here you can see the structure of CIMeC. So CIMeC is here at the center, and the research part is highlighted in green. The collaboration in terms of research is highlighted in yellow, so you can see this part here and these laboratories here. And then there's the educational part, so the different courses that are run by CIMeC. So for education, there are mainly three tracks, three main courses. One is related to the master course in cognitive science. There are two tracks in this course. One is the cognitive neuroscience track. The other one is language and multimodal interaction. The colleagues will present specifically these two tracks in a few minutes. Then every year we have 2 months lasting the Harvard Summer School, where people from different universities are coming here in Rovereto, mainly in Mattarello. It's a location close to Trento, to learn about brain and different issues. Every year there's a new subject explored during this school. And then we got the PhD program in Cognitive and Brain Sciences, and this is a 4-year PhD program that will be presented to you later on by the coordinator of the PhD program. Research activity. As I said, CIMeC is a research center, but it's also a teaching center. And so its research is based mainly on these 5 laboratories. I got problems. These 5 laboratories here that will illustrate you where they are located and what kind of research you can do in these labs. So here they are. So there are mainly 5 groups of research divided in terms of the subject that is studied or the technology that is used to study different subjects. So the first is the Functional Neuroimaging Laboratories that is located in Mattarello. We are here in Rovereto, and Mattarello is practically very close to to Trento, and it's about 20 minutes from here. In the LNIF Functional Neuroimaging Laboratories, we have several facilities. One is the MRI, so magnetic resonance imaging facility. Till a week ago, we had a 4 Tesla MRI, and now we are installing the new MRI. Sorry, this guy is driving me mad. A new MRI is a 3 Tesla that will be ready this summer. Then we got a magnetoencephalography, so we can record magnetic field produced by the electric activity of our brain. We got a transcranial brain stimulation laboratory where we can use transcranial magnetic stimulation and transcranial electrical stimulation. We can also run the so-called multimodal experiments where we combine more than one method. So we can combine data acquired with magnetic resonance or electroencephalography while we are stimulating the subject with transcranial magnetic stimulation. And also there is an eye tracking lab. Then we got the experimental psychology laboratories. Those laboratories are located across the road. There are several laboratories that mainly evaluate what is the outcome of our behavior. So there is the eye track. There's the eye movements lab where we measure eye movements, the kinematic lab, the EEG lab, the multisensory lab, the psychophysics lab, and the baby lab. So we can evaluate, we can measure different type of behaviors depending on different requests to the subject, depending different tasks, and so on, different functions. So that's the EPL, and is located to Palazzo Fredigrotti, that's the next door. Then we got the CLIC lab. The CLIC lab is the Language Interaction and Computational lab, is located also next door to Palazzo Fredigrotti, and this lab aims to study language and its interaction with different aspects of cognition via theoretical and computational modeling. Raffaella Bernardi will present you more in depth this lab later on. Then we got the Animal Cognition and Neuroscience Laboratory. This lab is located in Manifattura. So we are here at the moment, and if this is the train station, and here you go Manifattura. That lab is studying cognitive processes and their neurobiological basis in a comparative perspective. So in an evolutionary perspective, we can study animals while they are performing very simple tasks with a simpler neurobiological structure, and then from those information, we can information for evaluating different functions of our brain. Then we got the Neuropsychological Laboratory. In this case, the laboratory is located 5 minutes walk from here. We are here, and here there is the Neuropsychological Laboratory that's called Center for Neurocognitive and Rehabilitation, CHERIN. In this center, we aim to provide clinical service to patients with neurological deficit, so deficit that actually can modify our behavior, our language, memory, and so on. We also aim to perform research on those patients in those subjects to see how an alteration of the brain structure can produce an alteration in behavior. And finally, we also aim to train new researcher in this field. And here you can see the number of patients during the last several years, and also the rehabilitated patients, so the patients that undergo experimental rehabilitation protocols. We also collaborate with several colleagues. As I said, there's the Center for Neuroscience and Cognitive System, the Italian Institute of Technology here, and several other laboratories are in collaboration with other structures. So the Italian Institute of Technology is located just in the same building where CIMeC is located, and later on its director, Stefano Panzeri, will introduce this center. Then we got a laboratory in collaboration with the Museo Civico of Rovereto. Another laboratory is in collaboration with the physics department. And finally, there is a laboratory in collaboration with Foundation Bruno Kessler's, FBK Foundation, where they are evaluating aspects related to machine learning in neuroscience. Research activity. There are many areas of research. You can find a complete list of those areas in the web page, but here, roughly, you can get an idea of the different areas of research that are performed at CIMeC. Action, aging, animal cognition, computational modeling, and so on. So there are many, many areas of research in the field of cognitive neuroscience. You cannot read it, but this is a table reporting the evaluation from the ANVUR, that's a national agency for the evaluation of a university and research institute in Italy, and CIMeC has been ranked as first in Italy amongst the universities. So in terms of research, CIMeC has been ranked as the first research center. And also, in addition to research activity and teaching activity, we also organize several workshops and general events to communicate science to the population. So, for example, every year we go a workshop. It's called CAOS, Concept, Action, and Objects, Functional and Neural Perspective. Every year we got several seminars and PhD colloquia with international speakers, and then every second year we organize another workshop. This year we will have the workshop on cognition and evolution, and the Rovereto transcranial brain stimulation in cognitive neuroscience workshop. Next year we will have the Rovereto attentional workshop. So there are workshops that members of CIMeC can attend because, I mean, it's just next door workshop, and there are many international speakers, but also members, attendees from all over the world. We also organize conferences for the general public to spread information about science, neuroscience, and the study of the brain. Here you got just an example of 3 of the speakers that were invited and gave a lecture in the 10 past years. What is the future of CIMeC? there is a future related to the infrastructures of the buildings. So I've showed you that CIMeC has several locations over Rovereto, and also there is a location, Mattarello, very close to Trento. And the future of CIMeC is that all those laboratories that at the moment are spread in these different locations will move to one single location, that's a manifattura. And as you can see from this slide, this is a rendering of the buildings that will be built in manifattura. So here in the central part we will have all the laboratories with neuroimaging, magnetoencephalography and so on, and then other laboratories will be located in other buildings around this building. But there's another future of CIMeC that's probably most relevant to you and more close to you, that is a future related to your eventual decision to become part of the center and give your contribution to this center. And that is all for now. Thank you. So the next speaker is the coordinator of the master, Massimiliano Zampini, that will introduce the master course.
Okay. Welcome in Rovereto by myself, and today, sorry? So I'm the coordinator of the master in cognitive science, so I'm here today for trying to explain what's the master for and why you should apply to our master. Okay, let's wait. Let's relax for a while. Okay, thank you. So the master course is a course, master level, that's supposed to study, to prepare you for studying the mind and brain system and the topic of computational linguistics. Are two quite, okay, I have some difficulty with this kind of laser pointer, but anyway, let's keep it. If you are interested in the mind and brain system, it's better for you to apply to the cognitive neuroscience track. So the first information is that we have two tracks. One is in cognitive neuroscience, and the other one is in language and multimodal interaction. So if you are more focused on computational linguistics, on this kind of aspects, so it's better for you to apply to language and multimodal interaction track. And reason for applying. So obviously I have many reasons for suggesting you to apply, but I try to be objective. I'm a bit in a conflict of interest, obviously, given that I am the coordinator of the master, but some of those reasons are really, for me, important and objective. One of these is that CIMeC is a top-level institution, has been ranked as the first one in its field by the Italian evaluation system. It's quite renowned at the European and international level. So this is the first reason. Second reason is quite a pragmatic one, if you want, but also important for your educational perspective. We, at our master, we have a very good ratio between teachers and students, almost 50%. So one teacher for every two students. Why is so important? It's for many obvious reasons. If you want to have a chat with your teacher, with your faculty, it's maybe easier than in other places to get in touch with them, to speak with them. and I assure that they are quite available. Thank you. We have many different ongoing projects at CIMeC, which is quite another important issue. So if you are interested in pursuing a specific research, maybe we don't cover all the possible fields in cognitive science, but we cover many, many fields. So you could find your own research at CIMeC. We also support people that want to do research, for instance, abroad or in external institution, in company that might be interested in doing research or project in cognitive science, for instance. But I'm pretty sure that you can find your own project at CIMeC. But before, well, applying in a wrong place that might be our master, please check carefully, because all our possible projects are listed in our website. So look at the CIMeC website and look at all the possible labs. What can I say? If you are interested in studying music perception, maybe you're not able to find someone that is studying music perception at CIMeC or others more specific topics. Then is an international environment. 40 or 50% of our students are from abroad, are non-Italian. And also you can find many young researchers around, PhD or postdoc students, which is another good, if you want, important aspect. In fact, you can also interact with young people at their very first stage level of a possible career in academia or in a company. And so this is another, I think, important aspect that you should take in consideration. Then, if I may, I could suggest possible tips for a good application. So, for instance, when you apply, it's important that it sounds a bit obvious, but try to report and highlight in your CV any relevant experience or skills that you have. Relevant, I mean, for the master in cognitive science. So you can put all your detail or your skills, whatever, but if you put many information, it's hard to get the very important. Try to focus on the very important for your application. It makes easier for us to evaluate yourself. Okay. The second one, also try to report specifically your professional or training experience. If you have spent some weeks, months in a lab or in a company doing research, please say it. And strongly highlight it, or if you have attended any summer school. For instance, then Sabrina Adamoli later on is going to present our Harvard Summer School that we have in collaboration with Harvard University. So if you have attended to this Harvard Summer School or any other summer school, autumn school, whatever school, please add it, report it. It's important. Finally, it's also important that you write carefully your statement of purposes. So when you present yourselves, try to be fair in your presentation. Try to be at the same time specific. Not write a generic presentation. Oh, I'm interested in the brain. I'm interested in the mind. What does it mean? So, okay, it's clear to me that you are interested in the mind or in the brain or in linguistics because you have applied to our master. But why should we choose you in a competition among other people? So give us the reasons for choosing you. Explain your particular interests. Explain why the aim of applying to our master, why you have applied, why you have chosen our master instead of our possible masters around. So try to highlight these possible aspects. Then, so as I have already told you, we have 2 tracks in our master. They have some shared aspects. So the study plan structure is the same. We have 7 mandatory courses, 2 constrained choice courses, and then 2 free choice courses, plus an internship of 375 hours, and a thesis of 750 hours. What does it mean? It means that most of the courses are going to be in your first year. Most of your second year is going to be focused on your research project, on your training, on your hands-on experience. So you are going to really practice with the research, with a possible topic, with working with a possible technique, or in a possible lab. Bear in mind that you can also have different experiences. For instance, you want to work in a specific lab for your internship and in a different lab for your thesis. It is possible. You can do it. Regulation, administrative support, some courses are shared between the 2 tracks. By the way, the administrative support is made by Claudia Neri, that I think you have been in touch. Claudia Neri is over there, and you have been in touch for registering to this open day and for many other different issues. Now I'm going to say a few words about the cognitive neuroscience track, because I'm the coordinator of the master and also of the cognitive neuroscience track specifically. And then Raffaella Bernardi is going to present the language and multimodal track. Few words. So the cognitive neuroscience environment is made by different highly qualified labs in the field of experimental psychology, neuropsychology, brain imaging, and animal cognition. So, as you can see, it's quite interdisciplinary. Then, what we have? We have some mandatory courses, so they are for all the people that want to follow the cognitive neuroscience track. And those courses are Foundation in Cognitive Psychology, Foundation of Cognitive Neuroscience, Foundations of Brain Imaging, and Intro to Human Language. Then we have a methodological statistics course in research design and a course in computer programming, in which you should get the skills for, if you don't know anything about computer programming, on how to program on a specific language. Particularly in this course, we teach Mylab. Then we have 2 constrained choice courses. 2 out of 6 offered the current year. Neuroscience, developmental neuroscience, current issues in neuroscience, animal models, clinical neuropsychology, and some methods course, current topics in brain connectivity. So this means that you have to choose 2 among them. We offered 6 of them. You have a choice, a possible choice, and you choose according to your preference, according to whatever reason you think it's better one course than another. Okay, you put in your study plan. Then you have finally 2 free choice courses. What does it mean, free choice? It means that you can choose among all the courses offered by University of Trento. So it doesn't mean that you should look just to our courses. You have to look at the overall offered. Obviously, your choice should be consistent. You cannot choose anything that is not really related with cognitive science. And if it's broadly related, it's not quite clear, you should come to me and explain why you have choose to insert, and then we can discuss, and finally I decide if it's consistent or not. Sorry, it's my role. But anyway, there are many options for you. So if you don't find among those courses that already offered, so we already have some free choice course that we include in our educational offer. So, for instance, advanced topics in perception and attention, current debates in cognitive neuroscience, advanced topics in language and cognition, neurophysiology of language, scientific communication, neurobiology of brain disorders, and cellular and molecular neuroscience. So you have already a bunch of possible options, but still you can look around and check for the Unit 10. What else? Well, thank you for your attention. And then now it's time for Raffaella Bernardi to present LMI. I'll be around during the light buffet, so if you are going to have any specific question, come by me. I'll be there for almost all the afternoon. So take your time for asking your questions. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oppure c'è l'altro, quello che si
Sì, c'è quello che si appende.
È più comodo.
No? Hi, can you hear me? E questa qua come funziona? Con questo?
Questo è il pointer, questo è il pointer, questo la manda avanti.
Okay. So, hi everybody, I'm Raffaella Bernardi, and well, as been said already, I will be introducing this other track, which, as the name says, is hardly focused on language. So we try to understand how language works, and we try to model what we understand of language. So, as I guess you all know, and already kind of get this, like from using Italian or whatever language you speak, the first basic things of natural language is syntax. So we have to understand how the syntactic structure of language is and how languages differ with respect to that. But that's not all. It's not the whole story. We also have meaning. We understand. We don't only understand how pieces of words are put together. We understand also what they mean, what the words mean, and also how they contribute to the full sentence. So that's also another level that we have to deal with. And then, after doing this, when we speak, we also try to manage to infer information from one sentence to the other. So we reason also thanks to the information we obtain through natural language. And furthermore, then we can put more sentences together to build a full discourse. And we understand how these sentences are connected, the discourse structure and also the dialogue structure. We can manage to convey meaning to the others through natural language. So then the purpose of our studies and what we are teaching through this course are basically these points that I've been listening and that you kind of intuitively at least are familiar with. So we try to understand which is the syntax, so we try to build syntactic tree, and for doing this we need to use parsers. So programs that given a linguistic string as input will return this syntactic structure. But then we also have to assign meaning, and we have to build a dialogue system or whatever more challenging task we want to face. And nowadays, like the mainstream nowadays in computational semantics is to consider meaning representation to be vectors. So we try to obtain vector representation of words. We try to compose this vector to obtain the meaning representation of sentence and so on. And where vectors comes from studies in mathematics and computer science. But then we also build models, or at least according to the various background, we either build models or there are people who use models. But anyway, so these models are more complex and can contain various modules. And I guess at least you have heard about Siri. Siri is this assistant of the iPhone, and this is the kind of model that is behind Siri. So various modules that have to deal with aspects like recognizing speech, transforming speech into getting answer, harvesting information from text, and so on. So through this program, these are the kind of things you will be learning. Then, why the name multimodal in the name track? Well, because language is not the only modality through which we acquire knowledge and through which we understand things. Also vision, for instance, is another modality. And that's kind of a topic on which we focus our attention on. So we also, like besides the kind of getting models that understand, process natural language input, there are people who study how to process visual input, so images, and to represent them, and to do the kind of things that we do with language. And luckily enough, the kind of representation they have for images are yet vectors. And this has given us the opportunity to combine these two modalities, these two representations, the vision and the language modality, into multimodal system, which trivially is what the children would do. So a child will hear a sentence, maybe containing a new word, Wampingmook. The cute, airy Wampingmook just woke up and is given this, he sees this object there, but clearly Wampingmook cannot be a sofa, cannot be a carpet, it must be that kind of animal there, though he didn't know the name before. So we try to develop models that are able to do as the child does. Okay, the methods we use empirical methods, so we try to learn this representation from big data, which are called corpora, and also using behavioral study, trying to learn and evaluate our models against how human would perform a certain task. We use machine learning techniques because nowadays they are really like spreading in all disciplines, and therefore also statistical models, statistical methods for analyzing and understanding the results. But also we pay attention to what the formal linguistic, the theoretical linguist says about natural language, and which was the last point, and the cognitive plausibility. So we also try to build models which are cognitive plausible. And that's, I think, is the main difference of how we look into these kind of topics towards what maybe you would find rather in a computer science department. We do care a lot of the cognitive plausibility of human behavior and so on. So in order to kind of teach you, to lead students to learn about this topic, as Massimiliano said, we share the same structure of the previous track, but we have a number of other courses, quite a lot nowadays. So we have the cognitive neuroscience, we have the functional anatomy of language, current topics in language and brain, and cognitive psychology. Then there is like a bunch of courses, of course, focused specifically on introduction to human language, to linguistics, or advanced, because also kind of what we being experienced through this program life is that the students that come to our program have really diverse backgrounds. So there are students who already have done some introductory course to linguistics and other than not. So we try to kind of compensate these differences. So now a question for you, in fact, is like, who of you already knew about like what linguistics is? Who has a language or humanities kind of background? Okay, and philosopher? 2, computer scientist? None, okay. So it varies from year to year. For example, this year, I mean, the class was strongly instead already prepared on the computer science background, but anyway, so based on the class that we have, we try to also accommodate the different backgrounds and have courses on the same topic taught at various levels. Oops, no, okay. Then, research-wise, as it was introduced already by the director, there is like the research group that works on this topic is called CLIC, and the main topics are listed there. So we work on syntactic linguistic syntax, on formal and distributional semantics. I mean, we are like quite internationally renowned for that kind of topic. And also reasoning, and now like there is these emerging activities on which we are investing a lot on language and vision as well, also in cooperation with the computer science department. These are the people of the group. They are the old one, and then younger and younger, postdocs and PhDs. So like this is like it's small but active. Then we also, as a program, we also have several exchange programs with rather renowned university like Edinburgh in this field, Edinburgh, Groningen, Saarbrücken. And as a matter of fact, we are even part of this European Master in Language and Communication Technology, which is the master in this field in Europe. And it consists of, I'm going to tell you later a bit like the structure, but like if you want, through this program, students can get a view also on more application of in the field. So instead, like locally, let's say we are more focused on, as I said before, on the cognitive plausibility, on these behavioral studies and so on. Whereas in the program, through the various collaboration with the partners, there is this addition also of really learning as in various applications, like for instance, standard one like translation. Through the telephone, there is all the complexity of the various aspects I mentioned before, because there is somebody who speaks at the phone. The program has to understand what the person, the speech is, has to translate it, has to summarize it, has to translate in another language and make a summary for the other speaker. And so, again, like for sure, it's very interdisciplinary, and it has to gather information from computer science, math, linguistics, and so on. So as I said, it's kind of offered by a consortium of universities. So we are one of the partners of this consortium. The other are listed there. There are 8 European universities plus 2 non-European ones. And through this program, the students get to study 1 year in one university and the second year into the other. The program has been selected, has been recognized to be a program of excellence by the European community. So we have had Erasmus Mundus, we have been like an Erasmus Mundus program for more than 10 years now, and we are in the phase of applying for a renewal of grants. By following this program, students get a double degree, so a degree in each of the 2 universities where they study, plus a diploma supplement delivered by the consortium, the coordinator. Besides studying in the 2 universities, all the students of the consortium once per year meet And in that occasion, we have the annual meeting. We have also the ceremony. This has been done here in Rovereto in 2040, so there is all this fancy, nice ceremony. And so these are the links where you can find further information. The deadline for applying to this program is the 15th of February, whereas the local one is the 20th of February. That's all. I don't know to whom I should do.
Sì, a me non serve.
Okay, the next speaker is going to be Luca Turella, and Luca is going to present our CIMeC Cisa joint program. Okay, so.
Can you hear me? Yeah, normally I don't need a microphone, so I guess it's not really useful now. This is not my USB stick. Yep. Posso, Max? Program, which is a specific educational program of our master. So when you apply to our master, you can decide to be within the people that could be selected for this program, okay? What it is, basically, the general idea is to offer to our student, let's say, special program where they can attend 1 year here in Trento and 1 year at Cisa, which is in Trieste. And you will have basically the possibility of working in both these two research institutes that are basically the best research institute in Italy for cognitive neuroscience, okay? So we will select 4 students between all the people that will apply at the beginning to this program, and we'll make a list, and then basically they will follow, let's say, a separate track in the sense that they will have specific opportunities that other students don't have. But let's start from the beginning. The beginning is that the core idea of this program was to offer you the possibility of having, let's say, a special opportunity of being enrolled in a project that is basically taking place in 2 different institutes, so that you can start a project here at CIMeC and then possibly continue it at Cisa. So you will have 2 specific supervisors, one here at CIMeC and one at Cisa, and you will try to develop a joint project, okay? So the selected students for this specific program will get a benefit in terms of a fellowship, both in the first year when they are at CIMeC and for the second year when they will be at the Cisa, okay? For all the details of this, you can then refer to the specific website. So we have a specific page dedicated to, with all the details about this, but this is not really the focus of my presentation today. The idea is that your first year is similar to all the other students at CIMeC. So you will do your courses, you will attend and do the exams like all the others, but you will have, let's say, already during the first month that you are here, a presentation of what are the possibilities that you can have at Cisa. So what are the labs where you can basically make your projects, and you will have a visit at Cisa in June. So you will go there, you will meet people, and you will figure it out exactly what you want to do in the second years. This is basically what happens for the people that are selected for this project, okay? And they will be basically acknowledged about the fact that they can attend this specific project already at the beginning, so at the beginning of the first year when they are here at Trento, okay? So this is kind of funny slide, but I always put it on because many foreigners doesn't know that Trieste and Trento are 2 different places, and actually there are like 300 kilometers between them. So you will need to be physically in Trieste for your second year and not here in Trento. So you will have to basically go there, make some courses from the PhD school of the Cisa, and also to be there doing your internship there every day and you do your thesis there, okay? This is more for foreigner rather than for Italian, as it is basically evident. So there are also differences between the Chimek, which is basically a center within a Italian university. So we have a master course, and also there is a bachelor course in psychology here, whereas CISA is just a research institute. So there is no master, there is just a PhD school. So when you will be there, you will attend the courses of a PhD school. This needs to be clear for you, because the environment there is different from here, because obviously there are much less students, there are mainly researchers, okay? Why we choose CISA? Because CISA offers some complementary opportunities that at Chimek we don't have, or at the time when we started this program, it was not possible to have at Chimek. And I will go through it briefly later. Obviously, this program is established with the Cognitive Neuroscience Department at CISA. So you will basically go and work in the Cognitive Neuroscience Department there, okay? So the second year you will be at CISA. You will have to follow, let's say, the several courses that you need to accomplish for obtaining the credit that you have to accomplish in the second year. And then you will have to do your internship and thesis at CISA, okay? At the end of your thesis, you will have a degree from the University of Trento and a diploma from the CISA that you basically attended the second year there, that you were part of this program, okay? You can find all the information on the website for all the details about the, let's say, bureaucratic part and the administrative part. But here, the idea is that I have to try to convey to you that this is basically an additional opportunity that you have. And when you apply to our master, you might choose immediately at the beginning this type of opportunity, but you need also to know what this opportunity means in terms of the opportunity that you can have at CISA in terms of research, or in terms of, let's say, attending specific courses of the PhD school at CISA, or to making your research or trying to start your research career in specific topics that are not available at Chimek, okay? So the idea is that at CISA we have a series of labs that are basically offering to you other type of topics that might be or might not be also present at Chimek, so that you might already think about having a joint project. There are already ongoing collaboration between researcher at CISA and researcher here at Chimek. So you might already start during your first year to develop your possible project in these 2 years, okay? So just to give you an idea, for example, there is a tactile perception lab that is basically doing neurophysiology in rodents. At the moment, we don't have the possibility to make electrophysiology in rodents. We are just making behavioral studies in animals here at Chimek. So if you're maybe interested in that, you might consider to apply for this program, because it might allow you to, during your second year, to make some experience in one of these labs. So for example, Matthew Diamond lab is doing recordings in rodents, but also the lab by David Zoccolan. For example, in the lab by David, they are doing also computational modeling about response collected in rodents during specific type of task. And if you might be interested in getting some experience on how to model data, electrophysiological data, and constructing like a computational model to explain the activity of the brain with respect to some external stimulation, this might be one lab that you might be interested in going and working for, okay? So then there is other type of computational, let's say, experience that you might gain, for example, in Alessandro's lab, where they are mainly interested in understanding how memory and how the general organization of the brain is working. If you are maybe more interested in social neuroscience, Raffaella Rumiati is basically trying to understand through different studies using fMRI, TMS, or lesion patient studies, how the social stimuli are encoded within the human brain. So in this sense, you need to be proactive. Go within the CISA webpage, look what is there that might be of interest for you, understand if you want to have this joint program, and then to be basically already planning before you enroll in our master to understand exactly what you want from this program, okay? So just to give you the complete overview of all the labs, then there is Davide, which is also strongly collaborated with CIMeC, which is interested in reading and language, and has already, at the moment, for example, a strong collaboration with us on some studies in blind participants. So in this sense, for example, Davide is more interested in like doing psychophysical studies in humans, in doing EEG and fMRI and MEG in collaboration with CIMeC, for example. So if you already know, for example, that you are interested in this type of research, you might contact them even before you start these, you enroll in this type of project. But especially after you are accepted in the program, you need to already try to figure out during your first year what you want to do here at CIMeC and also at CISA to maximize the opportunities that this program is giving to you. And finally, there are the last two labs. For example, in this case, Domenica's lab is trying to understand how magnitudes are represented in the brain, so how time or how space, so how the objects are basically represented in our environment, and also how numbers are represented. And she's using basically fMRI and EEG, for example. This is a complementary type of research that is also done here at CIMeC, for example. You might think about starting to do your internship in labs here at CIMeC that are studying something similar, and then continuing while you are at CISA during your second year to study the same topic. Okay? And finally, if you are interested in computational modeling, Chris Mattis is the last PI that joined CISA this year, and he's strongly computationally oriented, so he's trying to model mathematically how the brain works, particularly for trying to create some models of how people make inference when they have to make specific choices or when they have to perform a specific action while they are learning new type of materials. This was just a brief overview of what the program offers to you, and I'm the delegate, so you can write me an email for any questions. Max is the responsible for the master course, so if you have more general question, you can always refer to him. And then Claudia is always very precious for any kind of administrative question or for logistic information. So you can already have some information about this program from the website. We have a dedicated page to that where all the documents and all the information are stored. And then, obviously, you should go on the CISA webpage and see what CISA can offer to you in terms of the research facilities and research topics. So I thank you very much for your attention. And if you have a question, I should be around later.
Okay, thank you to Luca for this presentation. And so far, we presented to you the first part related to the master. If you got questions to this part, please hold those questions. Later on, there will be time to answer your questions. Now, Sabrina Damoli, that's head of the personnel, will present you the Harvard Summer School that, as already introduced by me, is run every summer here in Trento and Rovereto. Thank you, Sabrina.
So, good morning. Can you hear me properly? My name is Sabrina Damoli. I'm head of administration here at the CIMeC. Every year we organize a summer school that runs from June to August, and this is why I'm here today to give you a brief presentation of this initiative, which sort of complements the academic offer of the CIMeC. This summer program is organized by Harvard. Harvard University has a wide overseas summer program. They have many destinations in all over the world where they have programs of 8 weeks to study various different disciplines. The only one on cognitive science is here in Rovereto. The initiative is a joint one between Harvard and the CIMeC and the University of Trento. it is mainly aimed at Harvard students who come here for 8 weeks during the summer, but is also open to some students enrolled in Italian universities who can attend this program. They have to be enrolled either in the 2nd or 3rd year of a 3-year degree, or in the 1st year of a master degree, in order to be consistent with the level of the students coming from Harvard. There are some prerequisites to participate in these programs, which are a strong interest in studying the mind and the brain, which has to be sort of proved in a letter of motivation that has to be sent to Harvard, we'll see later, and good English proficiency, because the course is taught, as everything else here, is taught in English. Being a joint initiative, faculty are from both universities, so we have faculty from Harvard University, from the Department of Psychology, and from the Harvard Medical School. And this year we also have a professor, Professor Coricelli, who is both a university professor here at the CIMeC and at the University of Southern California. Every year there are 2 courses which are taught during this program. It is an 8-week program, and therefore the courses are taught in the first 4 weeks and then in the second 4 weeks. The first course is Windows into the Structure of the Mind and the Brain. It is taught by Professor Alfonso Caramazza, who is the head of the program, and by John Assad from Harvard Medical School. And it is mandatory for all program participants, at least the ones from Harvard, and it is designed to give the background in cognitive science and neuroscience, which is necessary to then explore the specific topics that are taught in the second part of the course. Topics that change every year. The decision this year was to give a course on neuroeconomics, which is a relatively new discipline which combines economics, psychology, and cognitive science to study decision-making processes in both individual and social contexts. The course will be taught, as I said, by Professor Giorgio Coricelli. Lectures run from Monday to Thursday normally. Every morning there is a lecture by one of these faculty, and then there are discussion sections with the help of teaching assistants, and then there's work to do during the afternoon, whereas Fridays and weekends are normally more designed to the social activity part of the social program of this course. Some general information which can be useful for those of you who might think of applying. The school this year runs from June 9 to August 4, so 8 weeks. For Harvard students, the whole 8 weeks are mandatory. Whereas for students enrolled in Italian universities, as we know that this is the exam session, the summer exam session, there is the possibility, if you want, to attend only the whole course, if you like, or only 4 weeks. If you can attend the first general course, if you feel you do not have the necessary foundation, or if you can prove in a way that you already have the basic knowledge that is then appropriate to study, to attend the second course in neuroeconomics, you can also attend the second course only. I have to say, though, that we had people in the past, we had students who decided to only enroll, say, in the first course, And then when they were 1-2 weeks into the course, almost invariably, they changed their mind and came to our offices to ask to extend their the possibility for them to attend the whole course. This creates a sort of a problem because, as I said, there is a part which is mostly academic, but there is also quite a rich social programs, which I'll tell you a bit about later on, which implies that we have bookings and that where the number of people attending is something that we decide in advance. So think about it carefully, because what happens is then, it's normally then students want to attend the whole 8 weeks, even though they had thought about it differently in the beginning. The venue of the course is Mattarello. Students are provided accommodation in the university dorms in Trento, and they are provided meals and accommodation and everything which concerns the program. As I said, lectures are normally run from Monday to Thursday. Fridays to Sunday, about 2/3 of the weekends are dedicated to the social program. Students go to and have hikes in the Alps. They have trips to Lake Garda. They have overnight trips to nearby cities like Verona, Turin, Mantova. And this is why it is important to know in advance how many of you will be attending, because bookings have been made months in advance, of course. And there are also some free weekends during the course, 2-3 of them, where students normally organize themselves in groups, and they organize different activities. Some of them went to Rome all together, or they went to Florence and rented a house for a weekend. So it is not only an academic, say, initiative, but also more wide experience. If you wish to have some more information on how to apply, here is some information. The deadline for application have been set this year for March 23. It is already open. The cost of the course is €2,000 for 8 weeks and €1,000 for 4 weeks, which covers, as I said, accommodation, meals, and all the extracurricular activities that are organized by the CIMeC. But financial aid is available. That is important to say. There are a number of scholarships which are available for students enrolled in Italian universities. So if you think about applying, do think about it, because depending on the ISE declaration that you have, you may end up spending very little to attend a very unique summer school. The documents for application have to be sent to Harvard, who will decide on the application of students. And there are a number of documents that have to be provided. First of all, transcripts, so the list of exams with grades, which are also useful to prove that you may already have the necessary background in cognitive science and neuroscience in order to attend, if you wish, only the second course. A personal statement of interest in the program, 2 letters of recommendation written in English by faculty or academic advisors, which you already know during your university studies. And if you think you might be eligible, there's also a financial aid application. You have to provide an ISE, a valid ISE declaration, which is now used for many things in university, so you may already have it. And depending on that, there are different amounts that can be provided as financial assistance. I also summarize every year Harvard monitors satisfaction of students in its overseas program, and therefore we have every year we receive some comments by the students. I summarized some of them. I showed you here. in order to sort of give you an idea of what the atmosphere is during the course and what Harvard students take home with them when they go back to the States. As you see, it's a mixture of different things, much more than only neuroscience. The best decision I made this summer, pasta, history, and neuroscience. The professors succeeded in sharing their passion and excitement for neuroscience and psychology. This is because the atmosphere that you breathe during the program is sort of different from what you are used to in university courses here in Italy, because it's like it's Harvard coming here with their program. So you may think about this when you think whether you want to apply to this course. As I said, the application deadline is March 23 this year. I'll be available later on during the buffet if you have any questions, or anyway, do feel free to write us an email with any questions you may have, or phone us to ask anything you might be interested in. There is also the website, which will give you all the information I have given this morning, and also some more detail on the contents of the 2 courses which will be taught this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sabrina. So the next speaker will be Stefano Panzeri. As I told you, Stefano Panzeri is a director of Italian Institute of Technology that is located in Palazzo Fedrigotti, next door, in the same building where CIMeC is.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So good morning to everyone. My name is Stefano Panzeri, and I'm here to represent the activities of the research activities of the Italian Institute of Technology, which is based here in Rovereto. So we are an independent research institute funded by the government, and we are located in terms of offices on the 3rd floor of Palazzo Fedrigotti, if you want to find us. And we are about 50 scientists. We don't do teaching, we just do full-time research. And the focus of the center is to study the function of the brain and how neurons and neural circuits compute at the system level. System level means networks level, so we don't study individual neurons, but we study networks of neurons and how these networks affect behavior, perception, brain computations. And we have 4 research laboratories in our institute, and I will give you an overview of these 4 laboratories in the next 5 minutes so that you have an idea of what we do. So the first lab to present is the lab led by Alessandro Gozzi, one of our scientists, and it's called the Functional Neuroimaging Laboratory. Basically, what this lab does is to use techniques like functional magnetic resonance imaging, so fMRI, to study the brain of rodents, of mice in particular. And the reason why this is useful is that in mice, you have a lot of tools to manipulate their genome to look, so in this way, what single genes do to the brain and to the brain function. And they use that in various ways. And the one that he put here as an example is the use of these techniques to study the brain mechanisms of autism. So what they do, they take mouse models of where they manipulate genes that are known to be implicated in autism in both mice and humans. And then they try to measure functional connectivity of the brain of these guys and see what are the difference between a healthy brain and a brain with autism. And the other thing that it does is to try to understand the neural basis of the so-called resting state connectivity. As some people, some of you probably know, a very active research field also here at CIMeC in humans is to try to understand what's the pattern of connectivity between brain areas at rest. It's called resting state connectivity using fMRI and so on. And what Alessandro tries to do is to use techniques to manipulate neural activity at specific locations using what's called chemogenetics, or activation or inactivation of specific brain areas using techniques that combine chemistry and genetics, and then to try to see what activity patterns in the resting state are generated when they do these manipulations. In this way, you can hope to kind of deconstruct these patterns of resting state activity in terms of specific neural processes, which is then useful also to interpret human experiments. And then we have another lab called the Magnetic Resonance Imaging Lab, led by Angelo Bifone, another of our scientists. And what one of the things that they try to do is to try to use, again, rodent models, in this case rats, to try to understand the neural origins of the problems related to addiction and alcohol-related problems. And what they do, again, is a functional connectivity in these models that develop specific elements of addiction to alcohol. And then, again, this kind of chemical and genetic alteration of specific brain sites, and then use of mathematical analysis to understand the relationship between essentially all of these things. So to try to understand what are the neural basis of addiction. And they do that, I mean, these mathematical analysis, they do it not only in fMRI from rodents, but also in human patients. So they try to relate the activity of rodents in activity on patients, and therefore to try to understand the neural origins of addiction. And other things that they do in this laboratory is to try to develop new techniques to measure neural activity. The ones that I described before, magnetic resonance imaging, have the problem that they don't have cellular resolution. They have a relatively poor spatial and temporal resolution with respect to neural activity, and they try to use various principles of nanophysics to see whether that can somehow improve that. And they have a research line in this direction. Then there is my lab, and I'm Stefano Panzeri, and I'm a mathematical neuroscientist. And what I try to do is to use mathematical techniques to try to understand how circuits in the brain encode and transmit information. And one research line that I particularly follow is what I call crack in the neural code. So we know that neurons emit and transmit information emitting a series of action potentials, so these little pulses, and every function of the brain in base of what these neurons encode in these patterns of action potential and then transmit to other neurons, but we don't know how the neurons do it. And one way to approach the problem is to try to understand the code or the language used by neurons to transmit information, for example, sensory information, and then to understand how this information is read out to produce appropriate choices, appropriate behavior based on the input information. And what we do is to develop mathematical algorithms that can determine from this recording exactly how information about the senses, about vision, hearing, and so on, is used to produce behavior. And we do it in two ways. First, with our mathematical algorithms, we apply it to recordings from neural activity in various parts of the brain, from tens of hundreds of neurons, for example, in sensory areas or in association areas. And we use that to determine the neural codes, for example, for hearing, sound location, like as in this example, or for vision or for touch, which are the three senses that we study. And then once we understand what patterns of neural activity encode information and that are used to produce decision, then we try to influence the decisions of the animals, or to bias or produce a perception even in the absence of stimuli, by not only monitoring neural activity, but try to kind of influence neural activity by optogenetic techniques. Optogenetics is a genetic technique that allows to implant some kind of proteins or opsins in the neurons, and the proteins are activated by light, And these proteins can either switch off or switch on the neuron at will when the light reaches those cells. So some of my colleagues, in particular Tommaso Fellin, has developed very precise techniques, front-end engineering, to produce the holographic illumination at any particular time to any particular subgroup of neurons that fall in this field of view. And then what we do, we kind of design the patterns of stimulation of the neurons that can produce sensations or decisions. And these help us first to try to kind of design in the future potential clinical ways to restore function, sensory function in people that don't have that. And second, and most importantly for us, to try to test our hypothesis that we developed by listening to the neural code and analyzing the activity this is recording by writing information into the brain and see whether the neurons understand our language that we think we understand, and therefore execute the action that we want them to execute. And another research line is to try to help the interpretation of what is done when you record the electroencephalograms or magnetoencephalograms in the brain. In human experiment, you record these scalp level oscillations, and those have been imputed to a lot of different brain function. In our case, for example, our ability to understand speech. And what we do, not only to develop mathematical methods that can help us to understand how these scalp level oscillations are involved in the perception, for example, of speech or other sensory signals, but also what are the neural bases, the neural computation that are done in correspondence to these different oscillations. In this way, we have a tool that can help us to bridge between scalp level studies that are done in humans and that per se don't tell a huge amount of things about neural computation to the actual neural computations made in the brain. And then last but not least, we have another scientist called Lorella Battelli that leads a lab called Brain Stimulation Lab. And what they try to do in their lab is to combine techniques of brain stimulation like transcranial magnetic stimulation and others, brain imaging like fMRI, and behavioral studies like psychophysics to study visual perception and attention both in healthy subjects and in stroke patients. And they try to investigate various questions. One is about the plasticity of the human brain, both in health and in disease. Another is whether they can use the stimulation paradigms to retrain stroke patients and help improve their function after they recover from stroke. And then also they want to see how they can use transcranial stimulation to help obtaining long-lasting benefits that can be transferred then in everyday activities. And Lorella provided here one example of what they're doing, this kind of stroke rehabilitation program. And what they do, they use techniques like fMRI and TMS to try to essentially help potentially the rehabilitation of people from strokes. So what they do, they identify lesion sites in stroke patients, then they analyze very carefully behavioral deficits, and then based on this information, combining this information, they design stimulation paradigms that can intervene on brain activity and help relieve the deficit and at least in part restore normal function, and they were actually quite successful in their studies. Okay, so I think this gives you an overview of what we do. As I said, we are a research institute, but we are very happy to take master students if they want to do a research thesis. If you are interested in this, you can contact the individual investigators. The email is very easy, name.surname @iit.it. And if you don't want to write an email, you want to find us in person, you can find us in our offices, which are at the 3rd floor of Palazzo Fedrigotti, so very close to here. And I thank you for your attention. I don't know if there are questions. Or
next speaker is supposed to be Francesco Pavani. He should arrive in a few minutes. He's doing an exam right now, so he's supposed to finish at 12, so I think he's arriving. So we can take advantage of if you have questions about Stefano's presentation, about IT, or more in general about the master, or any other possible question, you can ask right now. Or we can switch in the program, and I would invite the students to come here and say a few things about their experience in our master. So we are going to have Katia Rivera, Katia is a second-year student. She's enrolled in a joint program with Cisa. So presented by Luca Turella. Then we have Andrea Bruera. Sorry, Andrea. First year students, LMI track. And then Simone Vigano, that is joining me, is doing actually our PhD, so he's no more a master student, like him. But he did a master at CIMeC. So let's start with Katia.
Well, I can start speaking anyway. Thank you for the presentation. My name is Katia, as he already said, and I'm a second-year master student here. Thank you. I'm coming from Mexico, so a question that I get a lot here is, how on earth did you end studying in Rovereto if you're coming from Mexico City? And this is a pretty valid question. So I'm just gonna, I know we are all waiting for the free buffet, so I'm gonna try to be brief and share you a bit of my experience here on the informal and formal details, but focusing more on the informal ones and maybe the social life in Rovereto and how is actually the program. So, yeah. Why? Well, I could give you, I guess when people ask this question, they are really meaning, why did you choose CIMeC? Why Rovereto? You know, it's such a small town you probably never heard of if you are not interested in cognitive neurosciences. And also, I'm guessing most of you are Italian, so one question you might have is, why study a master program in English if you're staying in Italy, right? So I could give you some very obvious answers that have already been mentioned. Well, because it is a top-rated cognitive neuroscience program in Europe and in Italy, because CIMeC is one of the first research centers in Italy, and because if you're planning to apply for a PhD position afterwards, your odds of getting accepted after attending this master's program are really good. But you probably already know all of this because you are here, so if you did your homework well, you're maybe more interested in how is life here. So I'm just gonna share some pictures with you right now. Basically, I would say one of the strongest things of our program is that because it's such a small place, you will really get to know faculty. And when I say this, I mean, you would really get to know them. So you already saw Carlo Minucci speaking here, but if you stay for the Christmas show, for example, you could also see him dancing and singing Feliz Navidad. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of that, which is probably good. But it's not only that. Besides of our very, very good faculty and all of our professors are doing very interesting research here. But also we have guest speakers every now and then. So for example, during the 10-year anniversary of CIMeC, Patrick Haggard was here. So we were able to listen to his conference and then afterwards have a beer with him at Locos which is one of the local bars here. If you apply for the master's program, you're going to become familiar with this bar. So if you apply here, science is not something that stays inside the classroom. It's something you can take out and you can discuss it having a beer or having a barbecue at Mattarello. So I think this is something that needs to be stressed out, because in the end, when we are interested in doing research and in doing science, most of our ideas flow when we are discussing them in a very informal environment. And this is something that CIMeC really provides. Because, I mean, you already saw the city is pretty small, so you would build strong relationships here between you. You would find nice friends. It would be normal to you to start speaking in English and Italian and maybe some other languages, Spanish, I don't know. So basically, this is what CIMeC is offering you. It's a program that has an international quality and that offers you an international lifestyle without having to leave your country. So for you that are Italian, I think this is a pretty good fit. And I think that's all for my part. If you have more questions, feel free to launch them here or at the buffet after. Thank you.
Thanks, Katia. So the second one is going to be Andrea Bruera, as I already told you, is a first-year student at the LMI track. So I think we should, do you have it? You don't have a slide, so take it.
I take this, at least. Yeah, so I'm Andrea. I'm speaking for the LMI track, because that's the course I'm doing right now. So I come from Italy. I'm Italian, I just come from Torino, so it was not far away. But at the same time, to me, it's quite far away. In the sense, I mean, CIMeC is far away from what I studied before. I studied philosophy, then I worked a bit. And then I thought, well, probably it's worth applying for coming here and doing the LMI master. And I thought, well, and it really looked like, and I guess you had this impression, it really looked like a place where I could study language, which was the thing I liked the most, in a cutting edge way, and in a way which was done with tools, basically the tools that were coming from the latest advancements in technology. And that's, well, this I got, that's what I got, and so it's really exciting for me to have been accepted. And then also for the LMI track, there is the thing which really makes a difference to me is the fact that we are few students in the same classroom every day, and then we come from very different backgrounds. So that's me, I'm the philosopher. I'm the one always making questions and just, trying to push it back to the conceptual part of things. But then there's people coming from, I don't know, informatics, psychology, linguistics. And so, well, first thing, if you're curious, this is great, because basically you get, you make a question and you get 5 different answers coming from 5 different, completely, you thought previously unrelated things, and then you get them. And you're like, if you're curious, you just go home and you read stuff and you learn plenty of stuff. And also, it's good, because then it's a way of confronting what you know, and because then you have to explain your stuff and make sure, I mean, if you really want the communication to go on, you have to make sure they understand what you're talking about. And in the classroom, where discussion is really one of the main things you do. You discuss stuff, you discuss paper, you discuss how to use a certain tool, what is the point of a certain experiment, and so on. And then when you have to explain your reasons, well, sometimes you just discover stuff you hadn't thought about, and that's one of the greatest things. And also because it helps you, and you see it helps the others in giving you better suggestions for coming readings. So I guess my experience is really a very positive one. Again, if you have questions for the LMI track, I'll be at the buffet, I guess. Starting to get hungry, so, all right.
Thanks, Andrea. And now it's time for Simone Vigano. Simone is a PhD student, can tell you about both his experience at our master and at our PhD program.
Exactly. Can I have the presentation?
Yes, sorry, the presentation.
Well, hello everybody, my name is Simone. Dovrebbe essere già caricata, l'ho vista prima. Scusa. Niente. Esatto, dica no. Bravissimo. Niente. My name is Simone. I'm currently a PhD candidate at the doctoral program in Cognitive and Brain Sciences, and I've actually been part of CIMeC for the past 5 years, so I've been asked to share a little bit of my experience here. I arrived at CIMeC in 2013 when I got accepted at a master's program in cognitive science, and given my background in psychology and my strong interest in life sciences, I enrolled in the cognitive neuroscience track. Among the strengths of the program, I like to mention there are for sure the small number of students per class that actually promotes discussions and sharing of opinions and eventually speed up your learning process, but also the fact that courses and exams are condensed during the first year. So during the first 2 semesters of your program, you actually consolidate your theoretical background on the foundations of cognitive science, but also you learn some practical principles of research, such as research design, or how to program your own experiment, or how to analyze your data. And by the end of the first year, you usually define a thesis project. Probably the most important strength of the program is that faculty, starting from the very first days, pushes you to join a research group and to actually participate in a research. That means joining a lab, a research group, and participate in data collection, data analysis, lab meetings. So in general, the access to the whole research experience. The second year is usually, as probably you've already been told, dedicated to internship and thesis. And in my particular case, I got selected for the UniTrento Cisa program, so I moved to Trieste. And there I attended some advanced courses selected from the PhD program in neural computation or advanced topics in sensory systems or affective neuroscience. For sure, I had to select a lab, a research group for my thesis, and I worked with Dr. Davide Zoccolan in the Visual Neuroscience Lab. And in particular, my project involved electrophysiological recordings from rats' brain in order to better understand how visual objects are represented in the hippocampus. Then in 2015, I moved back here to defend my thesis. I graduated and I applied for the doctoral program. Luckily, I got accepted. And I'm now in my 3rd year. And so far, the organization of the program has been pretty effective. Especially, we had the opportunity to follow some advanced courses on methodologies, so technical courses on how to use and analyze fMRI data, or MEG, or TMS, or EEG. But also some practical courses on what I like to call cross-sectional skills, like how to do a presentation, how to better visualize your data, how to write a paper, how to respond to reviewers. And of course, I had to define a project. Now it's during your PhD, it's your own project. You develop it under the supervision of a senior researcher. So in my case, I'm working with Professor Manuela Piazza in the Per2Con lab, from perception to concepts. And in particular, my thesis project is an fMRI learning experiment that aims to describe the cortical changes induced by symbolic categorical learning of new multisensory objects. And we use human subjects. And that's basically it for my part. Before conclude, I just wanted to stress some points for these 3 different areas, so for the 3 different parts of the audience probably. So for those of you who are going to apply for the master's program, I just wanted to stress what I think is the greatest asset of the program. That is this ability to move from a solid theoretical background to actual practical hands-on research experience. And this is something that it's difficult to find in other places, especially in Italy. I think it's the only center that offers this possibility in this way. Also, if you want to gain even more experience, I highly recommend the CISA program, the UniTrento CISA program, because it offers you the opportunity to follow some advanced courses from the PhD, but while you are enrolled in a master program. It exposes you to some complementary methods and to a multidisciplinary environment, because I don't know if you already know, but CISA is organized into 3 research areas that are neuroscience, mathematics, and physics, and you actually share the same building and same space with all these guys, and it's pretty awesome to talk to them. And of course, an highly appreciated financial support. And finally, to those of you who are considering to challenge themselves with a PhD application, well, Chimek offers a top-level environment, scientific environment, and of course, the access to Mylab facilities, so all the neuroimaging tools we already talked about, but also, for instance, the possibility to perform computational model or animal models in the Animal Cognition Lab. It offers full scholarship and personal budget for conferences, so if you want to go around the world to present your data, to learn something more, you have a personal budget to spend for this purpose. And what I think is the most important thing, at least it was in my experience, is that Chimek offers the perfect balance between independence and mentoring or monitoring from your supervisor. And I think this is the best thing you can gain from a program, because it's actually what really makes you learn how to become a scientist. And if you have any question, just drop me an email or talk to me at the buffet later. Thank you.
As you can see, we paid them to give these kind of presentations. No, I want just to underline one aspect. It's related to the fact that mainly for those of you that will be interested in the master, books might not be so relevant, because here in Chimek what we do is to do research. That research will be transferred directly to the class, and eventually the same research will be transferred also to the clinical environment. So it's a sort of feed-forward system. So the direct knowledge gained by the researcher that is running a specific research will be directly transferred in the class. I think we still miss Francesco Pavani that should present the...
Yes. So still... well, questions? You want... sorry. Yeah.
€100 for the first question that will come in 5 milliseconds. No, okay.
Sorry? Yeah, sorry. Just I have a few questions for you. How many are from Italy, actually? Most of you are, and from abroad? Okay. How many? How many from, let's say, psychology, neuroscience field-related background? Okay, good, nice. How many from linguistics, philosophy, or? Okay, I know you. How many from a very different background, not mentioned by me? You, what's your background? Okay, and you? Okay, optometry. So still, as I told you, even if it seems that their background, sorry? There's another one? Yeah.
I studied physiotherapy.
Okay. Speech therapy. Okay. Even if some background seems to be quite far, well, not in your case, but usually, as I told you, our master is quite interdisciplinary. So we can accept many different students coming from very different backgrounds for the master. It's not really a huge problem. And about the possible gap that you could have in your background, if you're coming from a different one, usually we provide material for trying to bridge in the gap. For instance, we suggest you to follow some courses, some online courses that are for free, Coursera, for example, and some of them can help you to really arrive with the basic preparation for being able to follow our courses. So now Francesco has arrived. And how many of you are interested in the master course and in the master first and then in the PhD? So master course, okay, and PhD the remaining. And some people not interested in neither in the master nor in the PhD. It seems that some of you didn't raise their hand, so they might be interested in the lunch, I think. It's a light buffet, sorry. Il connettore? Sì, ce l'ho. Sì. Sorry, we have a technical issue to be solved.
Beh, sì, ma non parlo io.
HDMI, VGA.
No, è troppo grosso. Sì, la ringrazio, mi scusi, ma... No, scusate voi. No, ci mancherebbe. Tanto mi spiace che non ho quello giusto. C'è? Allora. Vabbè, ma se vuole anche HD. Vabbè. Vabbè, quello che... Sì. Va allora. Vado? Posso girare? Ovviamente non ho beccato quello giusto. Mai. No, che due. Perché non me lo piglio? Forse cavolo 1. Ma poi. C'è anche qua. Ah, ma proviamo quanta roba? Ah, ok. Quindi rimetto questo. Perché adesso voglio allora tutto? Ok. MSC, questa. Aspetta che la mettiamo dentro la cartella. Si chiamava, mi scusi, MSC Open Day, questa. Oh, ce l'abbiamo fatta. Maria, miracolo. Si deve microfonare però.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Che si piega questo. Okay, can you hear me? Yes. So my apologies for this delay. I was with students doing an exam, and I didn't want to rush them. As you may appreciate, this is also important. Okay, so my goal here is to just give you a brief overview of the PhD program at CIMeC, the way we think about it, and the way it integrates as a further path into, after potentially a master and your master, if you choose to enroll in the CIMeC master. So around the mid-April, we'll come out with the new call for the 34th cycle. Our program covers a number of different topics, really on many aspects of cognitive neuroscience and computational linguistics. So essentially the same aspects that are very important for the master. Since last year, the program became a 4-year program. And this is quite exceptional in the Italian scenario, where most of the programs last 3 years. But we thought that actually this is the best timing for a PhD program in cognitive neuroscience, essentially because whenever you enroll in a cognitive neuroscience program, you have to learn many different aspects, and you have to build an expertise together with developing your project. So the 4 years are, in our view, the best way of achieving this. So you have fully funded 4 years fellowship. And as I said, the topics cover many, many different aspects, which basically reflect the diversity of expertise and research interest within CIMeC. The way we organize the 4 years is with a great focus on what are the research credits. Now, the main research credit is, of course, doing your project and preparing all that is needed for your project and your PhD path. But at the same time, there are many things that are sort of around building your project, something like you meet with your advisor regularly, you participate in Doctoral Student Day, and you tell others what you're doing. But also you write colloquium essay, do some research report. All these aspects take the vast majority of your time during these 4 years. And in fact, even more so as you progress from year 1 to year 4. There'll be, of course, compulsory training credits, and these are related to things that we deem very important, including tips on how to manage and monitor your project, ethics and good practice of research, which is an aspect that we teach to everyone from the very first moment they enroll, and also activities in the life of the institution. But then we let you build your course according to your needs. So there might be people that are already experienced in data analysis and they don't need to do classes on this, but they may need to take extra classes on linguistics, psychology, or biology, depending on what type of project they want to develop. And these are the electives that you can basically choose and build in your curriculum. Some of these are related to research communication, how to run your study, or achieving expertise in some domain. And many others are also possible because you can also take electives from other PhD programs in the UniTN university, and also from other master that may touch on topics that you need for your research. We work to have many different colloquia during the year, so we have keynote speakers that come every year, and this adds to many other initiatives that we do during the year that are initiatives that you can also benefit from while you are in the master, but surely you can benefit of this initiative while you are a PhD student. So things like the research seminars of very different labs that are active in CIMeC, lab meetings and journal clubs, the CIMeC workshops, so chaos, which is essentially concept, action, and objects, ROW that stands for Rovereto Attention Workshop, Cogivo, Cognition in Evolution, and a neuro stimulation workshop that will start from next year. As I said, there is a PhD day every year in which you can listen to what the other colleagues are doing. You can present your work to colleagues and staff of the program. And finally, we have regular meetings every Friday where people present quickly their research so that everyone is up to date on what's happening. In the PhD at CIMeC, we have a very important partnership with IIT that you may know it or not, exactly in the same building where CIMeC is, across the street, there is an entire floor of active IIT researchers that are focused on aspect of neural cognition. The students that we trained since the beginning of the program have been students that sort of succeed quite well in research, I would say, with good number of publications in the first year, but most importantly, they continued in the following year to be active researchers. And several of them are now in positions in university or some in the private or public sector. Although clearly, still the main outcome when you pursue a PhD is to sort of have a future in science and academia. It is still important to remember that PhD is a form of training that lets you also develop your skills, and therefore you can use these skills beyond academia or research only environment. I will keep it brief. I'll simply say that the way we approach this this PhD program at CIMeC is essentially in trying to give every student the tools to develop their career as young scientists. My view on this is that when you start a PhD, you are a student, you are a PhD student, but when you finish a PhD, you should be a young scientist at the beginning of the career. So you have to do this transition during the period of the PhD. That's why also 4 years are important, because you should start with the mentality of a person that still has to learn, that has to expand its knowledge and make the first steps into this very intriguing world of research. But then, when you finish, you should already be projected on what it is a potential career for you in science. Thank you very much.
Questions? No questions. Can we get the food? So, if you have any question, we will be around. So the lunch is open. You can get access to it. Yes.
I just wanted to mention I came late. I'm sorry, but if you have any practical questions about the PhD program, I'm available.
Yeah, Leah can give you information about the PhD course.
About the PhD program, yes.
Okay. Thank you and see you around.